All right, good evening. Welcome tonight to those who are here and those who will be joining and watching on a recording later. I am Ryland Layton, and I'm really happy this evening to come to you on behalf of a number of IIBA chapters and get to talk with Fae Gonzalez, who I know from my professional work. And we will have the slide deck out of the way soon because it is not a key part of tonight's conversation. It is a useful form of communication, but it is not the main thing we are here to do this evening. So with that, I just want to let everybody know your questions are important. So please, as you join, please go ahead and put things in the chat. Trent is with the St. Louis chapter. I'm not completely mistaking that, right? Right, there you go. There's an arch. How could I possibly get that wrong? Okay, my ability to remember names is slightly better than my ability to remember where people are from. Okay, so thank goodness he has that picture behind him if you're seeing those things later. So my thought there is just Trent will be helping us with hosting tonight, as generally once we get into it, I can't always do this thing of talking and interviewing and having a conversation and then monitoring chat all the time. So Trent will be helping with that. So by all means, put things in there if they come up, and he'll either interrupt if it's critical, or he will let us know at the end. Also, I have on occasion had a technical issue. If so, and I drop, this will continue. Everybody will handle it, and I'll just be back in as soon as I resolve whatever that is. That happened once about a week ago. It was a little disturbing. You like the reliability of these, especially when you're a full-time telecommuter. However, computers occasionally have their own senior moments. So tonight, this will be our topic. A little administrative stuff for us to go through. Okay, so as you all know, I'm Ryland Layton. I work at Cognizant's Microsoft Business Group, as actually, if it's all right, as you can tell from in a minute or two, Faye also does. I and we are here speaking only on behalf of ourselves. Opinions are ours. We're not here as representatives of the company. I'm not here representing the IIBA or anything else that goes on. I'm not an official spokesperson for anybody except this. That's about it, I guess. So just be aware of that, okay? If you don't know me already, there's 3 books out that I've been happy to be either the author of or involved with. And if those are of interest to you, take a look at those. They're on Amazon, or you can throw a question in if you don't know something about it, or contact me again later. We have I and we. The we here is not the royal we. The we here is me and the chapters that you will hear about in a minute, and the IIBA have a lot of career stuff going on for you right now. I kind of unofficially, or at least for me, declared 2024 to be your year of career, because the last quarter of 23, I was getting peppered with career questions. How do I start? How do I grow? How do I get to the next level? How do I do all the things I need to do to be a successful BA? And I said, I am a voice in this space, but I'm anything but the only voice in this space. So I am making sure people have all of that as info dumped on you as I can reasonably do in the first quarter of this year. If you look at my YouTube channel, I have a career topics playlist, which has Angela Wick, Laura Brandenburg, a video I did on managing, leading, and just getting your job done, which borders on our conversation tonight. That's on there. This will go on there, and I have another couple of those coming up in the next week or two. In 2 weeks, I'm talking with Chad Cross, another manager of note, and I'm probably having a couple more people come on after him. We'll see how this all goes. So please take a look at that, subscribe, like. I can't believe I'm the guy now saying things like that. It's so funny. And please take a look at those things, and if they're interesting, do those things. The IIBA Career Center. IIBA has a huge amount of career resources for you. Please take a look if you are an IIBA member. If not, it's a good opportunity to take a look and join. Please consider that, and take a look at your chapters. If people on this call are not connected to your local IIBA chapter, please reach out and see what is going on there. Even if you're international, most chapters are doing things that you can do virtually, okay? So more speaking events coming up. Take a look at LinkedIn. That's where I'm posting them these days. And I also have my own website that I've finally updated a little bit at rylandlayton.com. I'll tell one more thing about that. I have 3 conferences I'll be at, 2 in March. So Agile Austin, if you're there, say hi. I'm not speaking at that one. Then I'll be in Toronto at Project World BA World Toronto. I am so excited to be there. I'm very looking forward to that trip. I am teaching my BA masterclass there, as well as speaking a couple of times. So if you are going to be there, please say hello. And then I will be in Dallas, Fort Worth area for Agile Alliance at Agile 2024. I'm not speaking there. I'm just going to be attending. So the last thing to note about that, and I'm not going to go on about this one, is I have just launched my first ever coaching group. This is limited to 10 people. We're going to meet every other week for 12 weeks, so 6 sessions. We're going to do highly customized individual development and growth plans for you. That is not the kind of stuff you do at work. If it matches up with what you do at work, awesome. I'm not telling your boss what you're doing in this session. If your boss is attending, that's kind of cool maybe, but that's interesting. Haven't had that happen yet for sign up. I'm limiting this to 10 people because I want this to be a very close-knit experience. I don't want this to be unfocused mass kind of stuff. 10's a good size group to cap it at, but find more people are interested. Maybe we'll do a different cohort. It's going to be 7 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesdays, starting April 16th. You got that there. To sign up, rylandlayton.com, go to the services page. There's a payment and registration link. There is also a link for I'm interested, but I can't do this one. And it'll let me know where you are, what your interest is, that kind of thing. And if I find that there's like a huge amount of interest in Europe, I can consider doing a session that's friendly to the Europe's time zone and so on. So please take a look at that. If it makes sense for you to sign up, do it before March 15th. It's worth about 20% of the price. If you are just interested, but can't do it this time, let me know. All right, tonight's session. Hopefully I've done all the slides up correctly because I had to check on that. We've updated stuff. Just want to let people know what's going on at the IIBA chapters who partner with me to get this message out. So I will pause after each of these to offer the opportunity for anybody from those chapters in the leadership group of those chapters. Not just if you're a member, but if you know what's going on, if you're in the leadership group of that and want to come up for a second and just speak, please feel free to unmute yourself at that point. So the Bluegrass chapter has a lot going on. We get there, our value proposition. So they have a ton of things. Look at all those folks they're partnered with. Bluegrass is one of the very active chapters. Is anybody from Bluegrass on who would like to come up for a moment? Just go ahead and unmute yourself and chime in if so. Okay, I didn't think there would be tonight. I think folks were a little busy. Also, this is a stale slide. My apologies for that. Birmingham is also a member of our chapter. Please check out their website. They have a lot of things going on. I know this slide is incredibly old. It's just me that has not grabbed the right one in a while. So just letting you know. St. Louis. Trent, I know you're with St. Louis. I just want to check. Any update you'd like to give about what's going on there?
Well, we've got actually a lot of things coming on besides our virtual programming that we run on a regular basis. We are getting back face to face. So if anybody is in the St. Louis area and is interested in a quarterly face to face, we've got some great programs coming this year. Again, we're planning 4 of them. But they're a little bit larger, a little bit more focused on the issues that we've got in front of us in the St. Louis area and around the world even. So, but some great programs coming, and you could see the board down at the bottom of this slide. This is our new crew, and so we've got some great things happening in St. Louis. So. We're also on the global IIBA front. We are one of the very, very first adopters of the new website platform that chapters are receiving this year. So that may be news all around for lots of people. So a lot of the websites that you're used to looking at and being familiar with from your local chapters are getting a major upgrade. So we are one of the forerunners in that group. So
awesome. Thank you. I didn't know that was happening either. I'm looking forward. I'll have to go look over at the St. Louis IIBA website and see what's going on with that. Is it implemented already, or
it is not implemented yet. It is but like I said, it's the St. Louis is one of the forerunning groups in it. So
okay. All right, great. Thank you so much. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Fae. If I can find my buttons to do this. So Fae Gonzalez, who has let me know she prefers to go by Fae. So we will do that unless she corrects me, and because I hear things wrong all the time, despite being a BA. That's why I take notes visually for people, because I'm like, did I get that right? If you know me, that's a thing I do all the time. I have had the pleasure of working with Fae for something like 6 months now, on and off at Cognizant. And I can tell you solidly that every time I talk with her, the conversation as from her as a supervisor, because she's been my supervisor, has been, hey, how can I help you? How can I make something better for you? Do you have anything in your way? Or helping me navigate the company, or helping me have insight into some issues, because I have had those. And although some of you come to me for help on this, I go to other people also, because it's too easy to get locked up in your own head and decide, oh, I know what's going on with this. The right thing to do is this. When sometimes, shall we say, we come from ego and not grace, perhaps, as a friend of mine might have said back in the day. So with that, I kind of want to say it's always struck me how Faye approaches those things and the level of servant leadership that she practices, whether she thinks of it that way or not. But I always do when I get to talk with her, and it's a pleasure. And like many BAs, and those of you that have had a chance, where I've had the chance, I should say, to get to talk to many of you, we're a questioning lot and we just go on with our topics. And she and I do that a lot. So we have a flow for the evening that we kind of thought we're going to do. But like everything, no conversation plan ever survives contact with the meeting start. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to do a little magic on the screen while Faye introduces herself. And then we will see where our conversation goes. I'm going to try to make it so that we're both visible full time to everybody. Okay. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute. And Faye, if you would like to please introduce yourself a little and tell a little about you and how you got going. I'm going to just see if I can figure that part out and make that work
The
for everybody.
magic, make the magic happen.
I'm going to try.
You can do it. I believe in you. Hi, everyone. My name is Faye. Ryland had it right. My full first name is Elisa Faye. My legal name is Elisa Faye. That's how I fly. That's how I get through airports is with Elisa Faye, but I go by Faye. I've been with Cognizant in the Microsoft Business Group for 3.5 years. And in that time, I have served as a product owner. Prior to that, I retired from American Airlines after 20 years of service. And the last 6 years of that was also as a product owner. In 2014, when I was first tapped to become a product owner, I had no idea what it was, no idea what it meant, and very quickly found out that it was what I was born to be. And so it's my delight to talk from that space, but also I've had a lot of leading people stuff in my career as well. And I think that's probably why Rylan wants to chat through it today. Just a fast note here. Actually, fast 2 notes. What Rylan said was exactly right. I'm employed by Cognizant, but my opinions and my voice are my own in this meeting. I am not speaking for my company. I'm only speaking for myself. I also have clients that I work with as a Cognizant consultant. I'm not speaking for them either, just for myself. And the second thing is, Rylan just said a lot of really nice things about me. And I just want you guys to know he's not buttering me up, because I have zero say in his next review. I'm actually moving away from being a supervisor. Yeah. This is all Ryland. He's not buttering me up.
If anybody on this call, which, I think you got to be a bit of, I don't want to say a diehard fan, but you had to be interested in this and probably know me and say that you want to be here for this, because otherwise I don't know why you are. They know I'm not gonna, I don't think I'm not getting anything out of this by way of influence or something. And I also wouldn't bring anybody here who I thought wasn't worth people hearing from. So I'm going to point a thing out there, because you did a thing and I want to help people understand it also. Faye and I did talk, when we originally booked this, Faye wasn't going to be my manager anymore. We expected certain things to happen at certain times, and it didn't happen to work out that way. And before I push the button on advertising, marketing about this thing tonight, I said, are you sure we're still comfortable doing it? Because she has been very conscious at all times in many different ways. Like if we just managed to catch up sometime in person, making sure we're always complying with ethics policies from the company and so on, and even creating any idea that any illusion that we're not, right? You always want to create the, you never want to have the impression that you're even potentially doing something inappropriate. So we talked about it and said, no, it shouldn't be an issue here. Okay. And yes, we both discovered how little influence we have over certain processes and so forth, which is kind of how it is. That's cool. So I was managing the screen a little bit. I think I've got the screen the way I want it for folks. Hopefully that helps. I'm probably gonna ask everyone to keep your video off if it's not working for you already. I hope it is working for this now, or at least it is in recording. If you haven't, you can use the gallery view or the speaker's view, and you will see the way I'm looking at. Yep, it should just be for she and I showing at the same time. Faye, did I cut you off from any part of the intro that you wanted to complete about yourself?
No, let's go. Let's do
Okay.
this.
So we have a few things lined up. Let's start with as we kind of talked about. Having kind of we're going to talk about how you got into management in a little bit, but what would you think is the most important thing for people to know about that transition of focus, experience, anything else as you go from being an individual contributor to a formal management responsibility? Okay, not just being the person who's like, oh, well, you're in charge, but actually being in the titular role, having the position, you know? What do you
The
think is the most important thing?
That,
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
hate to say that word, but yeah, that's kind of it, right?
yeah. Well, I think two things. First, if you're thinking that being the boss means that you're going to be at the top of the mountain of work, able to delegate most things and just delegate work and take it easy, it's nothing like that. And then the second thing is if you've targeted being a manager as your next step in your career because you want prestige and power, and you're setting yourself up to be, this big voice in your company, then you're setting yourself up really for deep disappointment, because it's not like that. I think that's probably the most important thing to think about when you're going into the career. If you're going for those reasons, pump the brakes, man. It's not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the main thing people should know, right?
Yeah.
The way I think about that, a thing I wanted to help highlight there is, did your work get harder or easier? Do you get more work or less work, or just different work compared to what you had been doing before as you shifted, as you were drafted, as we'll talk about later, drafted into management?
I got considerably more work and also different work. I found that the muscles that I was exercising very well. I was a very sleek, muscular person when it came to work. I found that the muscles I was using as a manager, as a supervisor, were way different, and it was sore. Like, I was a little sore for a bit because it took some adjustment, moving in a different way. And you certainly do move in a different way when you're a manager as opposed to an individual contributor.
Mm-hmm. So this sounds like a great time to shift into let's talk about how you got into management. How did
I
that
got
happen?
drafted.
How was that official minute? Yeah, the drafting thing, right?
The
Because
drafting.
that'll be important for people to know, and it's a great springboard for us to go further from.
So I never chose to be the boss or the leader of people. It was given to me during one of many reorganizations within my then company. And it went something like this: your department is being dissolved, your position is being dissolved. It will no longer exist as of X date. However, I want you to do this thing instead. Do you want to? Sure, of course. I welcome the opportunity. I have a job.
Of course.
I have a job.
Oh, right. You mean I can do that, or I can be laid off, or at least be in an absolute pool of it, and likely because I've also shown I'm not interested in taking on more responsibility. Sure.
Mhm. Yeah,
Hmm.
drafted.
Right. Is it career
Drafted.
limiting behavior? Is it, in the worst sense possible, career limiting behavior to turn this down?
Right. Yes, absolutely. But it turned out to be just probably the most impactful time of my career, and that's saying a lot because I've done a lot of impactful things. You can log online, you can go online to a website, aa.com, and find work that I've done. So to say that time as a supervisor was the most impactful period of my work life is to me massive. It's massive.
Talk a little more about that. What was the massive change for you in this? How did that, what was the moment
Sure.
where you said that?
Sure. So we're going to go a little esoteric here. Websites can be redesigned. Promotions are in and out. It doesn't really, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter about what you do in your career, but how you impact people who are around you 8 hours a day, a third of your life does. It does matter. Think about the people in your work life who have made a difference to you. Think about what they did as their work, and then think about their impact to you, and which one made more of a big difference to you, and which one are you going to remember and talk about and think about and model yourself around. It's probably going to be how they helped you, not this big cool technical thing that they delivered on time in spite of all of the obstacles in their path. That's great. Hey, you made a company some money, made some money yourself. That's great. But if you can help someone, actually help them be better, learn something, grow, there is nothing better. There is nothing more impactful. And I got to do it not just for 1 or 2 or 3 people, but for a mass of people, for a lot of people. It was hard work. I would do it over again and over again, and I would be exhausted, but I would do it because it was so worth it. It was so worth it. I'm so glad I got the opportunity to do it.
So I think that's a thing I want to emphasize to everybody around. This is we've all had supervisors we think we remember that have been good and bad, right? And the ones who invested in us or held us accountable, who are real with us, I think that's the thing, right? And it sounds to me like you thought of yourself in that way of, I know this is what I'm doing. I know this is the spot I hold for them in their day, not just a coworker. I'm their manager, I'm their supervisor, their boss, for want of a better word. It's an accurate word. We just all don't love that word. And you took it very seriously. You take that is a conscious thing in your mind when you interact with people at any point that, in your day. If they're your direct or indirect report, you have that in the top of your mind.
Absolutely. Every
Okay.
single moment.
Okay. And I guess the thing about that, and I know, it's funny, I'm trying to think because we've had these conversations. So I know, I'm like looking at the things I'm thinking about with this. That's something that you already had before you got into management. I'm not sure if it's something people saw in you ahead, do you think? Did you ever get that feedback? Or was it something, or was it, what was the driver was it of those moments into management for you by others? Because I mean, for a lot of people, I think, who think about getting into management, it's how do I do that? How do I get there? And so on. But it's like having the qualities and showing it first is something I wonder about. And I'm wondering if you've had any feedback about that from people who've been in supervisory positions over you and said, hey, this is why I asked you to be in this role.
I remember what the supervisor at the time told me about me. She said, this is the thing I remember most. She said a lot of things. She was such a great boss, but she said that I was fearless. That I was fearless. And that's great because I had a lot of fear and she didn't know it. She just saw me working and working and working and getting things done. And that was such a good compliment, I thought. She called me fearless. So at the time that this happened, there was a lot of fear. I was tapped on the shoulder, accepted, um, trained in how to lay people off.
Right.
And then I think it was the same week, I went and laid people off. And that was the first thing that I did as a manager. I laid off a friend of mine. I walked them through their colleagues in the area of the building where I was at. and laid them off, and then turned them over to security, where security just let them out of the building. That was the first duty that I had as a supervisor. So fearless, I think, is probably what was in her mind when she picked me, because I had a long, hard road to go. After that, I had to put together not one, but two, and actually it was more like three new teams out of the ashes of the call center that I was working in. Brand new manager, never done it before, just laid people off. Now go create teams out of what's left so that you can pick up the work and start doing it. We were behind, by the way,
I
because we had to
know.
train people. So yeah.
So I think this is a good thing, and I'm going to share a little line on this as well, because I've been in one of those spots where I wasn't a manager, but I was on a team that had been downsized by like probably anywhere between 1 to 2/3. I forget how much it was at the time, but it was like around a half, give or take, 50%, give or take. And I was exempted from the layoff process at the time because I was the only person with the technical skill set to do what I did and operate the stuff that some of the team did. So that was a thing. I was going to be there. But I was also challenged to make it more efficient because there was nobody to help me anymore. I had to do 100% of it on my own. So layoff environment's really challenging. I know that, and I'm betting, and I'm going to ask for people to react a little. It's not going to pop up here on the bubbling screen and so on. But if you've been through a layoff yourself, please just, I hate to use the thumbs up, but just use the thumbs up icon because it goes away automatically. And just tell me you've been through a layoff yourself. I'd just like to know that. Have you been through one on your own in your career space? It would be nice to know. Okay, I'm only getting one, but I'm guessing there's a couple others, because I know a couple of people on this call. But it still would be great. Okay, seeing a couple, 2, 3. Okay, cool.
Well, the
Gotcha.
rest of you, I'm so glad you haven't gone through it.
Yeah,
It's
I know they're all bubbling in now. I know it's takes them the surprise the first time I ask anybody to do reactions like that. So most people have, and a lot of people are saying more than one fellow here said practically a dozen. So it's amazing, right? It is a necessary skill, and it is a scary time, and it is hard. I'm gonna tee this up for you because I think it's important for people to know this. You had to do that. And I remember we talked about this because we were going to talk about what we were going to discuss tonight a little. And I'm going to just go ahead and put that there. This was your first thing as an official manager. So now you are responsible for the group. And folks, you've all heard how she handles that responsibility. That is in the utmost of her mind. Okay. And then I know she said, and Faye, I want to say from there, what did you do with the folks who were still there? Because I know you had to let them know a couple of key things, like you're not being laid off, and 2, okay, I got a weird thing from the system. I'm going to dismiss that. You're not being laid off, and also that this is now the team. And you had a few other messages you wanted to put there. So I'm going to just tee that up for you and put that there.
Sure. Right. So here I am having to put together not one, not two, but it's 2.5 teams. It was like a backup team that I had to create a process for and then work through. And I didn't know a lot of the folks. I relied on other managers to help me find the talent because I wasn't close to them. I hadn't been in that manager role before. I didn't have access or insight into the work and the abilities of the team members left. So I took it on faith that the people that I had were the right people. Pulled them all into a meeting. Waited for them to all get into the room, settle down. It was very quiet. And I started going through kind of what the next step was, what we were going to do next, how we're going to move forward. And there wasn't a whole lot of people, not many people were really talking back. And this was probably one of the biggest mistakes that I made. It's a new manager, but I was still a manager of people. One of the biggest mistakes that one of the things I regret the most in my time as a boss of people. Not only was I terrified and grieving, they were too. And I was trying to be the strong leader and move us through. And this is the thing we're going to do next. And here's how we're going to get through. But I had failed to recognize that they were also less under a veneer of professionality and more rough and raw because they just watched their friends walk out. They were in this dark place too. And so when I brought them into that meeting, I didn't think to make space for how they were feeling. I just said, here's what we're going to do next. And really and truly, one of the braver ones told me, hey, I thought you were going to lay us off in this meeting. I hardly understood most of what you said because I was just so relieved that I still had a job. My mistake. I still feel bad about it.
It's been a little while. It's been a little while since then, but you know,
Been over
sometimes
a
our
decade.
mistakes.
Yeah.
We carry mistakes sometimes. I have those
Yeah.
moments of things I've said or done that I cringe a decade later. I'm like, can't believe I was still that stupid then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you did something else, right? You let them know that wasn't what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you moved into some leadership activities that we've talked about and very consciously servant leadership stuff.
Sure. So, I mean, the best thing that you can do as you're developing and nurturing a strong team is to listen to them, to know where they're at. I think it was, I don't know where he got it from, but I for sure heard it from my pastor. He said, no one cares what you know until they know how much you care. And I was like, oh yeah, that's wise. Thanks, preacher. That's wise. So, it was really important to really understand where they were coming from. And as it turns out, even if you're not in crisis mode, even if you're not in a dark place, that's still key and critical to leading your team forward in the best way that they can, because a team is made up of individuals, and those individuals deserve to be, and you as a manager must do everything you can to help them to be the best that they can be. Sometimes that means you find out that your team member needs a little bit of development in one area. Sometimes you find out this team member is a parent of a small child, and what they need most in their life is flexibility. Sometimes you find out this person wants to be a part of the FBI, and the best thing you can do for them is to help them get through school. And that's how they're going to achieve. And they may not even achieve with you. It might be that the person that you have is so much better suited to doing something else. But rather than take that person and say, you're no good at this, bye, find out what they're good at and help them get there. And then you've made them stronger. My manager knew that I was going to be an excellent product owner when I didn't even know what it was. But as soon as I slid into the position and kind of figured out what it was, I think it was the vice president came to me and said, it's like we screwed you into the socket, your light bulb, and you just turned on in this role. Like, this is what powers you. Yeah, like, she was right. It was exactly like that. So if you can help find someone else, the place that they fit best, the place where they're powered and shine, it doesn't even have to be your team. Like, if you can just find the place where someone can do that, then that's the moment that you've made the difference. That's the moment where that's what it's all about. It's making sure that you get someone to that place. So, and that has nothing about prestige and power. That's a lot of work.
That's right. Oh, I'm getting an echo. Is it me? Did it stop there?
You're good.
Okay. All right. If I get it again, I'll figure it's me. So I often put a label on that of people need to work in their passion. And anybody who's heard me work a few times, heard me speak a few times, like you get much further with that. I'm wondering if there's times where you're just helping people find their passion about either the work they're in or see how getting through, like the person who wanted to be at the FBI. Like, great, you have to do this much here. We can't, like, you're gonna have, we know you're probably not gonna excel and be outstanding here, unless by chance the two just happen to line up great, which would be awesome if it does. But sometimes we get employees, especially in jobs where people are just trying to process through a lot of stuff. But the thing they really want to do is over there. That's the thing they're really about. This pays for that, you know? And the way you help them is by supporting them in that. I think I'm getting it right. I don't think we have any data.
100%. 100%.
So I guess the thing I'm wondering about is I've occasionally seen people who are managers, and I'm wondering again, I'm going to ask in the audience, folks who are listening, give me some reaction or a note in the chat about this. Well, if you're not invested 100% here, something's wrong with you. Like, that's ridiculous. My family gets my 100%. My passions get my 100%. It's good when this overlaps that, but if I have a sick family member, if I have a personal crisis at home, if I'm going to school, my 100% may look different than you picture it looking. Like I may be doing certain things here. And if we don't acknowledge that as, in my case, informal leadership, I've usually had dotted line responsibility for people if I've had it. If we don't acknowledge where they're at and meet them there and support them there, they will work somewhere else that does, or we will see their performance drop in where they are, and they'll just coast as much as they can. But by meeting them where they are, we help us as leaders win. We help the employee win. We help the company win. You got to do this thing. I mean, not everybody wants to be a rock star at the position they occupy. They may want to do something else. Go ahead. What do you think? No.
I think everyone wants to be a rock star.
But at what they're doing at the top.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I think if you handed someone a job they absolutely hated and you said to them, would you rather be crappy at this job or would you rather be a rock star?
Okay.
Their answer would be, I would rather be a rock star. Now, are they dedicated to putting in the work and the effort it requires to take? Maybe not.
Well,
But
I
then
guess
again,
I just mean about the thing that they're passionate about. Like if the person's working and going to school and that's what they're about, of course they don't want to suck at what they're doing at their day job. But I mean, are they going to say, well, if I have to choose my passion between this thing I'm really passionate about and this day job, and investing here in my day job is going to sacrifice the thing I'm truly passionate about. We're not meeting them where they are. I don't think they'll say yes to being a rock star that way.
that's fair. And Robert is making me laugh. Imagine a role play, he says in chat. Yes,
Right.
boss, I'm 100% committed to being a doormat for the company.
That's right.
As a manager, never mind, yes, boss. As a manager, it is your responsibility to take care of your team members. That means not overworking them. That means saying no to your boss when they say, we need them to be overworked. No, that is not what's going to happen with my team members. Thank you. You will find some other way of doing it. Have I ever had to have that conversation? No. I've had to negotiate for extra perks, extra time off, that kind of thing. But I've never been in a position where I've had to turn down management. My management has always been very ethical. So I'm very lucky because I understand that's not where everyone comes from, but I'm super lucky.
But they stand out. This is the thing. Managers who meet people where they are, and I think we're basically agreeing. I think the difference in what we were saying was I'm saying, no, nobody, you're saying nobody would want to be seen as bad at the thing they're doing for their job. And I agree with you that 100%. Nobody wants that. I don't think that's the thing. I'm just thinking about, is it something you're passionate about? And I recognize the people and I acknowledge them and appreciate them. And I will work harder with the portion of my life I am able to give them when they acknowledge that I can't give them my whole life, because it frees up my worry energy from, oh my God, am I vulnerable? Do they see me? Do they understand me? And doing everything I'm doing, they understand that I'm doing everything I can and that I'm open to the feedback about how it might really be. If it's not enough or if it's something's wrong within appropriate boundaries. I'm going to go tell one other small story just because this happened to me. I did have to be in a job one time where I had to say to someone who was more than one level above me, here was the situation, just giving you a quick, so to speak, short version of what happened. It was a team I'd been working with had literally put in like, 6 weeks worth of work in less than 4 weeks. They had been over and above to meet a critical deadline on a project for a client, and they had done the thing. They had all put in the extra hours and all the other things and so forth. And we met the deadline and actually went out with very good quality from what I understood, which surprised me. I had not expected that. I had not worked with this team that way before. And I was new. They were new to me. I was new to them. And I said that, after we got through that, I looked at the next hill coming up and said, wow, we got to look at how we're going to lower that hill. And I talked to this senior leader who was asking me how things were going after we'd gotten through that particular release. And they said, well, are we coming up on another one? Well, they said something to the effect of, well, it might just be another hard few weeks. And I said, absolutely not. Like, what do you mean? I said, when I was interviewed for this position, I asked you about work-life balance and respect for people and things like that. And y'all told me you really valued that. I said, if you're telling me the project plan is to burn people out on a project for the next 6 weeks again, then we're not living the values as a company that we say we live. So are you telling me that? And they quickly said, no, I didn't realize it was that bad the last 6 weeks. I said, it was. I said, if we have a plan to do that a second time, I need to know that, because then I didn't sign up for what I thought I did. I didn't say that part. It was obvious from my face, but I said the rest I was there on. And obviously I had a certain degree of trust for this person, or I wouldn't have said those words in the first place. I would have just been advertising my resume already.
Yeah.
But I decided in this case, I was going on a limb, and I would just say directly in a relatively new management situation, supervisor a couple levels up, this is what you said to me when we interviewed. I said, yeah, I did. And I meant it. So that's not the right reaction for me to have had. I'm glad you backed me. And we didn't. We told the rest of the team, same thing. And I said, thank God. We just did whatever you want to call a death march. I hate the term, but the team had done that. We're not making a project plan that calls for a second one now. That's not respecting our people. So I was really grateful for that. Now, again, we're not in a layoff environment and so on. I am telling that story 6 years, 7 years after it happened. How much do you think that leader stands out to me in my mind? In so many ways. That is one of the people I think about when I think about how we're handling people in a day-to-day thing. So I'm just going to say, I think that people who meet people where they're at make a huge difference, because we need that, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Kemi is calling out a truth. The truth most times is managers are more concerned about job getting done and may not really show the empathy that employees need at the critical moment. And no matter what, they hear they're most times fixed in their ways. Okay. Yeah, I see that happens. Absolutely, it does. Robert has said dance analogy here on the dance floor. The leader meets the follower where they are. I could quibble, but I hear what you're saying. I could quibble. The opposite simply doesn't work. I could quibble. Same in the other performing arts. Servant leadership is the only form of leadership that work. There are other forms of leadership that are effective in getting the job done, but they don't feel very good. Also, I'm quibbling because I remember running up to the person that was going to be my boss and it was going to give me the first teams of my life and saying, hey, do you need someone to write this customer service letter template? Because I could do that for you. So you can approach the leader on the dance floor. You've got to be a little crazy, but you can do it.
Well, So you're bringing, go ahead, you first, and I'll throw a question or topic out in a little bit.
Yeah, so you said, "Hey, here's this bad situation, death march in progress, pending, right? And here's how I handled it."
We did one. Are we setting up to do another? Because we shouldn't be those people.
Exactly, that's what you said. And you remember your leader backing off and saying, "That's not the way I wanna be." I
Yes.
went through my own death march. My leader did not back off. And I'm telling you, I very nearly quit. I was in the bathroom. I called my best friend. I was crying. I said, "I have to do this amount of work at this amount of time. It will take me all night and day for the whole amount of time to do it. This is generally a 6 to 8 month pull for half of the work. It was a lot of work. I had to do it in 3 months. I'm going to quit." And my best friend said, "What about your grandmother?" My grandmother happened to be halfway across the United States, and my mom was her sole caretaker, and my grandmother was disabled. And so my mom, who was in Texas, was flying back and forth, and she needed help to do that.
Hmm.
I was helping my family, and especially my grandmother. And if I had walked out the way that I told my best friend I was going to do, I would have hurt my family. So the only reason that manager didn't lose a person that day
Hmm.
had nothing to do with her leadership,
Yeah.
had nothing to do with anything except my family. My family overrode it. But honestly, that's rare. Like any other person would have walked out and it would have been the right thing to do. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying at all that servant leadership isn't the right way of going. I think it is.
Well, but the person above you wasn't giving you servant leadership. They didn't say to you things like, I mean, I'm going to counter this for a minute for folks because I want to point out we were talking about good and bad examples here, and we're going to bring. If you didn't
That was
notice
a
it, the
bad
questions.
one. Yeah.
You had a bad example.
Yeah.
The servant reaction of that might have been, "Wow, I did not know this was going to be that difficult," and I acknowledge maybe the deadline can't move. The agilist in me says maybe that leader could have said, "How can we make this easier on you? What could we skinny the deliverable to? Could we do this in phases? How could we approach this such that it's okay? I understand your manager showed up right this minute, and I get that management shows up. My three managers would have shown up, except I keep the door closed over here. But it's okay. Working our animals are our supervisors in many cases, right? They interrupt when they want to. So,
Sorry.
but it's okay. It's cool. It's there's so many good memes about that on the web these days, especially since COVID. Okay, coming back to that, just saying, this one stood out to you that way. They had other options that were servant focused. They could have, even if it's just sympathy and saying, "You're right. This is crazy. Work at a reasonable pace. I will see what we can do for the next couple of if good." We haven't lost her yet, folks. Um, the cat unplugs the internet cable, we're in trouble. If there's a 3-month timeline, I think you were kind of talking about with this, it's like, let's see what we can hack away at for the next few weeks to get this moved or changed or whatever. Give me a few examples of what you can get done in what frame of time, and I can show that to leadership and say, unless we're willing to do something about this, we're going to burn her out. And where are we then? Or just anything, or made it worth your time to say, what can I take off your plate in other areas? Or, do you need to work from home? Or what can I do? What can I do? Right? Listen to the concern, clear roadblocks, support the person, help them create initiative. Those were all things somebody could have done for Faye and didn't. And I know that she does that for others, having been one of the people in those conversations. And like I said, people I've given examples about, they've done that. Like how I know this is going to be a crazy, it's one of those examples I hadn't even thought of it. A manager did for me. I know I'm giving you this on a short deadline. It's double what I've asked for you in half the time in this kind of time before. What do you need for me to be successful? And if that include, and if you need weekends, if you can clear your weekends, I will find time above or below the table to give you that time back. We weren't in an overtime situation. That wasn't going to happen. Almost never does. But, in this case, it was, what can we do to help you? Or make it incentive, or at least not show you that I hate you or I expect it, right?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yes.
That's the thing. I respect you. I see you. I acknowledge you. Let me help you. Because
Yes.
that's the difference. Because otherwise she would have walked. And what would the cost of that been to everybody involved? The manager, to her, to the to the company. I mean, it's just a thing. So that's a point I wanted to go with for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. And can I just, there's
Yeah,
something you
throw one
said.
more thing. Let me know when you're ready and
Well,
I'll.
yes, just one thing. It was one thing, and it's probably the most critical thing, the most important thing. You gave me the short definition of what a leader is. A leader removes roadblocks. And stop. That is, if you are deciding that being a leader of people is going to be your next career move, please understand that that is the one thing that you must succeed at. You have to be able to go at it in the mindset of, I'm here to remove roadblocks, whatever that is, time, training, care, whatever it is. That's what you're here to do, is to make someone's work life better.
That works.
That's it.
One reason you're here, and there are people who aren't on this conversation with me today. There are a few in the past that no.
Oh, but you know what?
But
Even
that's
bad leaders teach you something, right?
I'll go with, the burned hand teaches best sometimes, or, I used to have a little pin back from my science fiction convention days that says, experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. That's a fun one. There's another one, by the way, grad school. It's not just a job, it's an indenture. So for those of you who have a master's degree, you know that. I'm going to shift gears slightly. I'm going to throw a question at you that I'd love to get your take on. And then, folks, I would love to know what made you come tonight, what you hope to get out of this evening, or any questions you have in the chat. Maybe Trent, maybe you'll be able to give us a hand with that. I've been able to read a little what there, but it hasn't been like going by like crazy. So giving a little thought. Faye, I know from a very informal light survey I did at in a different group of folks, most people who come to these sessions that I host are not looking to get into management themselves. And they're not most of them. And that's fine. I still think these lessons are valuable, or I wouldn't have people up here like this. What I did want to think about, and this is why I wanted to ask you this next question. When you're working with direct reports or indirect reports, however you're looking at this, first of all, like, what makes someone a bit of a standout on their job to you? Like, how do you notice an employee that just is a great employee to collaborate with or work with? What makes somebody stand out to you? And kind of connected to that, it's why I'm forming this question. It's a little difficult for me. It's how does somebody help you to help them? That's kind of the thing. Because folks being I'm just going to make the assumption that people on this call who are listening, you're not here because you want to become a manager. That's not the general topic at hand. But I'm looking at it as, how do you work more collaboratively and successfully with your manager? And I'm thinking from the manager side of that, from the leadership and management side, what makes a difference when an employee does it for you to help them is how I think of it. Does that make sense?
The Jerry Maguire thing.
I don't know, because I haven't seen the movie.
You've never seen Jerry Maguire? Did you
More
tell me
media.
this and I forgot?
I don't know. We haven't exactly exchanged a full list of potential media that we have references to, though perhaps that's not a bad idea someday. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
sufficient.
we
But
probably
let me
should do
leave
that.
that out. How, I mean,
Okay.
setting that aside, I have a short list of things how I look at my managers and supervisors and so forth, of experiences I want to give them in this sense. Like, one of mine is a no surprises experience. I learned that early on in my career. That's a thing I think of. What do you ask or offer, or what makes a more positive relationship with a supervisee, in the sense of, in this spirit, how do they help you to help them to be more successful? Because that's what you're looking to do. What is there anything that leaps out at you as an idea there? And there might not
First
be.
thing that leaps out at me as the idea here is, I challenge your hypothesis. I believe that every person at work in a seat is a leader, and you will lead from your position regardless. So surprise, you don't
Right.
have to have the title of boss to be a leader. You can
Yeah.
lead wherever you are, and you should. So that setting that aside, we'll
Yeah.
just go with boss. When I'm hiring people, when I'm looking for standout people to join my team,
Mhm.
there are two things that I look for: competence, courageousness. Competence, courageousness.
Okay.
Um, competence is, of course, core. Are they able to do their job? Courageousness is a value, right? It's a Scrum value, courage, I believe, but it's also a value that a person carries inside them. Are they courageous enough to say, I don't know that, but I would be happy to learn? How can I? Are they courageous to say, I can't do that right now? Are they courageous enough to say, I think that there is a better way of going about it? Or even more so, I think what you're doing is a mistake.
Mm.
If someone is courageous and they're competent, then I can work with pretty much anything. Pretty much anything, actually. those two things are the only things I need. I don't. I appreciate, sir, the no surprises approach that you take. I don't need it. I don't need
Well,
it.
that's good.
It's a nice perk. Hey, it's the icing on their island cake. I love it, but it's not needed. I
Okay.
just need someone to be courageous enough to tell me where they're at. And if I know where you're at, I can meet you there. Let me
Okay.
meet you. Um, that's all I want. I just want help. Just want to help.
So let me turn that around a little bit. I'm thinking it's also so that being honest rather, and um, I don't know if I want to say assertively honest, but sort of kind of like, be a hand raiser, have initiative, that kind of thing. Don't if you need help, say it, right? That's what I'm thinking of in that form of initiative. Because you're saying you want that courage, and courage takes on a lot of shapes, but hey, that'll overload me, or hey, I can't get that done by that date. That does take courage. It also takes being able to, maybe if you discover it along the way, say, hey, this is what I need help with. I'm picturing that might be part of what you're saying, but I'm not sure.
Well, you're bringing up a really good point. Sometimes people don't feel like they can open their mouths and say that. And so, as a leader of people, it's my responsibility to remove obstacles. And one of those things is making the space available to someone to say, I can't do this. So maybe I will assign a piece of work to someone and say, I need this by this time. But I shouldn't leave it at that. I should then say, what do you need?
Mhm.
Right? How can I help you get this done? Do you
Well,
have any concerns? Like those kinds of things are really how you move from being a manager, a boss, to a leader.
so that's what I guess I'm saying. So let me rewind the scenario a little bit. You've had people who you didn't pick as direct reports, right? You inherited them, or they were in a job, or they transferred or something. Um, and how did you help them to understand a good way to work with you? Or how did you build that connection with them? Because maybe they didn't know how to. That's what I mean by helping them to help you. Because
Mm,
what you're trying to do, the helping them to help you, is so you can help them to be successful, right? It's not that it ends on you. It's that your
right.
intent and purpose is to be helpful to them, to be that servant to be that servant leader I have always seen in you. I've always seen you practice. I mean, so that's what I mean. Like, it sounds like having to cultivate that from somebody and build that might be a thing. I'm wondering um, if if you have any advice for anybody on how to engage someone on that. And I'm kind of trying to pivot it to these are mostly individual contributors, usually who like I said. So I want to inspire them to have a conversation with their supervisor if that person isn't
Mhm.
initiating this as much. What
Mm.
might they do? How might somebody who needs to build this collaborative, supportive relationship with their manager and communicate this to them, how might they go about it? Is there a way you could picture someone would approach you on it that you'd say, thank God you came to me with this? Like, how might someone initiate that if their leader is not as there with it, let's say? I'm making that up, but we've all had those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that made sense.
No, it does. And I'm pausing here because I'm very aware of the fact that there are some managers that you would not even try to approach this conversation. Like, you might be putting your job at jeopardy if you try to approach this kind of conversation with them. So big ol' asterisk.
Yeah, your mileage may
Guys,
vary, people. Let's
please
just say
read the
this.
room. Please read the room. You know your manager better than I know your manager.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've got two types of managers. Those who are servant leaders, those who are not. You probably know which one your manager is. Okay. Now, if it's a servant leader that you're approaching, likely all you have to do is saying, I'm having some trouble. Can you help me?
That's good.
If it's not a servant leader, then that's not to say that it's a bad manager. Might be, not to say that it is, just may not be there. I mean, it may be one of those managers that I've heard someone on this call say, what was it? Benign neglect, I think, something like that.
I once did have a manager I would describe as benign neglect. Yes, they
Fine,
weren't.
just not that engaged.
Yeah, or maybe they're just so young at it. I mean, any number of things, right? I like that. I think what you said, somebody could do even to somebody who comes from that authoritarian leadership thing or otherwise, because it's a very benign probe. I need help. Who am I supposed to go to except my supervisor, at least initially?
Right. And if you're in a very, very bad situation and you still don't think that you can say the words, I need help, because it might show weakness, here's the trick. Play to their ego. Say, I like your advice on something.
You are so good at. Could you offer me some opinion?
I think you might know this. Can you give me your thoughts on this?
Yes.
And then put your issue in a way that does not make them feel attacked or confronted, or even that they're doing something wrong. Even if you feel that they are, put it in such a way that you don't put them on the hook. You just give them a way of saying what you're hoping they will end up doing for you.
Help them, letting someone have your way is a valid form of a conversation. Help them to have your way. And again, let's remember what you're trying to do here, because if that sounds manipulative, you are seeking help to do your job successfully.
Exactly.
That is not manipulation.
No, it's just one more toolbox.
Not.
One more tool in your toolbox. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is soft skills, which you may have heard me talk about with Angela. If you didn't see the Angela video, go back and watch it. Angela and I talked extensively about the mark of a senior professional, generally BAs, but anybody at all, anybody anywhere, okay, is increasing degrees of soft skills, because you can work with more people. And work is done by people. So if you are able to interact with more people, you have more reach, more extension, you can be more valuable, you can be more successful. Knowing how to work with your supervisor in whatever way and to speak their language is a huge plus for you as an individual contributor. It is nice if you work with a very enlightened supervisor who'll meet you where you are. However, if they don't have that skill, look at how much a plus it is for you to have it, right? If they can't bring the adapter, you bring it, especially if you're a BA. Especially if you're a BA, it's part of our job. We're supposed to be able to do that. So that's how I see that.
So I promised nerdity.
Nerdy. Oh yeah, we've got some nerdiness coming
I
tonight.
promised nerdity. So here I am delivering on that promise.
Okay.
So much of the leadership that I learned throughout my life from a very early age. I won't say how early. It was early. Not as early as I would expect, but early, or as I would hope, but early. Most of my leadership skills that I learned from Jean-Luc Picard, captain of the USS Enterprise D. So if you want a primer on how to do it right, go watch Star Trek.
And I'm just going to tell you, she's quoted Shakespeare to me more than once. I'm just going to say.
Guess what? Picard quotes Shakespeare.
That's why I said that.
I was also an English major.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
So if it's all right, I want to interrupt for a minute. I want to do two quick things. One, I want to tell a short story because I want to clarify a thing. And then I want to look at the chat a little, and please, if people would throw a question out or two, if they haven't already, I'm trying to kind of see that. I want to pivot back to that and take things from people here. We will definitely be stopping by the half hour. Okay, absolutely. We will stop earlier if Faye and I look at each other and say, I think we've covered it. Okay. I want, and the reason I'm doing this is because I want to correct, no, I don't want to correct a thing. I want to explain a thing. I said about the no surprises experience, because it's interesting how many times I've had in my more mature career space, people come back and make a reaction of, I don't really need that. But earlier in my career space, it was considered a huge plus, and people appreciated me for going to them with it. And I'm going to spend time after this evening reflecting on this, because I'm going to think about how did the world change? Did I change? Did the people I work with change? What's different? Because something's different there. And I'm going to think about that. But at the time it could have been that the culture of the company I was working at, and I will leave out which ones they were because I'm not trying to be maligning. They were great places to work. Most places I've worked have been a good place to work, one or two exceptions. And this policy came up because if my supervisor at a particular company was told about a conflict or potential issue from a different manager in a different department that involved me before I told them about it, it would make them look unawares, like they didn't know what was going on in their department. Like they had to hear about a problem in their control space from someone else, and it made them look like they didn't know what they were doing. And I think that's where this came from. And that could be about the culture there, and I just never noticed it. And if you've heard me talk otherwise, I've said many times, you got to know the culture where you work, or you will get run over by it. If you're an agilist, you may have heard the phrase from SAFe that culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you put a strategy in place that goes against the culture of the company you're working at, hang it up now. Don't even get started. You're just going to get hurt. Okay? It's not going to work. So I think that may have been a cultural artifact that I carried potentially longer than it needed to be. And I'm going to think about that.
Well, if you ever want to kick it around with someone, I'm here for you, man.
I know you are. I know you are. Okay, that was the thing I wanted to throw out there.
Sam.
Let's take a quick look. Oh, we got more cat.
It's Sam.
All right. I'm not seeing a question pop up in there. I'm looking over and seeing if I see any hands raised. I'm going to pause for a minute, pun intended, because we just saw a cat, people. Okay. And Trent, I know I can rely on you. I just happen to be a spot where I can look at this. If anybody's got a question, either put it in the chat or raise your hand. We're going to just pause for a moment to just see if that happens. If not, I'm going to continue to talk to Faye about Jean-Luc Picard, frankly. So she's not going to be annoyed by having the time.
No, I will totally talk about Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. I will do it. But I would rather hear your stories and your questions.
From people in the audience, not just me, not me. I gave all the stories I'm doing tonight. This is my guest. I really want to hear with her. All right,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any hands go up right this minute. I'm not seeing any questions pop in the chat. So tell us a little more about Jean-Luc and how that came to be the influence. What made you take him as your I don't know, hero visionary, what your leadership style that you wanted to take on from that. And while
Sure.
she's doing that, if something comes up, put your hand up or put a note in the chat.
That's right. So two things. So first, I didn't know this when I first saw Picard step onto the Enterprise, but Roddenberry's vision for Star Trek was there was no conflict, no interpersonal conflict within the crew. They are both beyond that because we are amazing people and we figured it all out and we work together in the future. And also because they believed in something bigger than themselves. That would be Starfleet. That would be the military, basically, is where they were working in it. But then the other thing that, so I didn't know that, but that was kind of the way that Roddenberry set up Star Trek. And what that meant was it was an idealized world. And what a great place to take your leadership lessons from an ideal world. So I was conditioned in this ideal world from a very early age. And those lessons are all idealized. That said, like, what great ideals. The big thing that Picard did, I think, is listen to his people when making huge decisions. You didn't see him, except in battle scenarios, you didn't often see him approach difficult issues without referring immediately to his team. They were sitting there in the ready room thinking about how they could tackle this thorny issue, and their resolution, more often than not, there's one episode I'm thinking about, I'm not going to name names, more often than not was the right thing to do, and it worked for everyone. That leader used the people around him to make his decision, and it was his decision at the end of the day. He was the leader, but he didn't do it in a vacuum. He relied on
not in the plot world, but in the real world you're describing.
right.
I'm serious. I wasn't sure because it crossed over and I want to make sure I get it. That ideal materialized in a real work situation where you saw someone do the same kind of thing is what I think I heard you say.
Well, absolutely. I did it too. Like that was also what I did. Like,
yeah,
honestly, I inherited a team that did really specific, specialized back end work. I didn't know what they were doing. I had to rely on them. I literally could not tell them what to do because I didn't know their work at first. So, you really do have to lean on your team instead of assuming that what you know is right, assuming that you always have the solution.
So I'm thinking of two things with this. One is when I've seen teams and folks work this way. Also episodes of Star Trek, right? Because we definitely share that in common there. It's here's the situation, here's the outcome I want, options. Give me options. And then he stops talking so others can insert their information and sometimes debate amongst each other and refine ideas, right? There's an aspect of psychological safety there, which is a great topic. If you're not familiar with it, do a little Googling. That lets a team be effective. And there are other times where he paints a vision and says, I think we've got to get to this. Here's what we're going to do right now. We don't have time to debate. I'm going to have to go with, and this is kind of a leadership prerogative, a good solution this second is better than a perfect solution in an hour, right? Because we don't have an hour. So the combat thing you were describing, right? Sometimes good enough is good enough. It may not be optimal. We don't always have the time for optimal. We sometimes have to do what we have to do. And still it's that conversation. I'm thinking also that I've seen a number of times where I'm thinking people have probably been in this situation yourselves, which is, some managers say, and it can be perceived positively or negatively, don't bring a problem without a solution, right? And I'm saying that positively or negatively because it can be, I don't want to hear from you unless, I think that's the negative. But that's not the job you have because you can't always solve everything, right? You may not have a solution. It may just be a problem that can happen. I like to think of it as a challenge. I'm engaging my manager or some leader about a thing, and I want to show them I have thought this through, and there's a reason I'm not just coming to them. What is it I want from them? Agreement. I need to borrow their authority. I need additional resources. I need them to know there's a risk, but I'm taking it on, in which case I kind of need agreement. Why am I doing this? For me, sometimes it could have been a little of a no surprises thing. Let's be honest about that. And I've had feedback about that I've got on a wall over here. I'm going to pull one of my famous things off my bulletin board over here in a minute for people because I think it's going to be relevant. But I'm just saying this to everyone to say, it's that in your own mind, I think it is valuable to say, don't bring a problem without a solution. Even if you can't bring a solution, show the work you've done to try to arrive at one. Then it's valid to say, I have beat my head against this and I don't see what to do with it. And I need your input, or I need you refer me to somebody. Do we agree this is a problem? Or sanity check me that I'm not, at least I'm not making up that this is this hard and I'm not missing something, you know. I think those are valid things. And I feel like that's a little bit of a Jean-Luc thing as well. Like, you know, I mean, people could bring him those things and he would give their input, and he would also tell them sometimes, you don't need my authority to do this. It's, if you see the solution, you're empowered to do what you need to do.
I like it. I like it. Telling you, Captain Picard, he's the man.
A lot of great lessons. I'm trying to think, is there a book out there also on this topic? I think it was Everything I Need to Know About Leadership I Learned from Star Trek. Is there one there? I forget.
Ryland, there are a lot. I think there is a book out there, something about the wisdom of Picard or something to that effect.
That seems right.
Yeah. There's that too, in addition to everything I learned about leadership I learned from Star Trek.
Okay. So I have a last topic I'd like to give an opinion on and talk about with you and see what you think about it also. So you kind of started it, to be honest.
Ooh,
But first, I want to take one last chance at anybody to raise your hand or throw a question in. So I'm going to pause for just a moment.
Yeah, because anything from our viewers, our listeners, is going to be a better topic than anything that can come out of my mouth, I think, because it matters to you.
You and I think very much alike on that. It's great. We kind of wonder because, you know, it's that thing of, okay, are we hitting the mark with folks because we're not getting a lot of reaction in some ways of hand raising and questions, which could mean we're doing a great job and they're just enjoying the conversation we're having, or it could mean they've checked out. But y'all are still mostly here, so you haven't checked out. All right, I'm going to go once, twice, 3 times. All right. So here's the thing. You hit on a thing that I love. You said how leadership, you know, the words I use for it are leadership is not a level, but you said that, you know, no matter what level, no matter what your job is, whether you're in a title of a manager or not, you can show leadership. And I'm going to put forward this thing. Some of you may have seen me do this, and I'll just hold it up to the screen because I'm not kidding when I say it is on my bulletin board over there. I'm hoping that's just about readable. If not, I'll try to see what I can do with it. And if not, I'll just read it to y'all.
Read it.
Read it to y'all. Okay, so this is from leadershipchallenge.com, I think. And they did recently revamp their website, probably worth a look. These are leadership behaviors. If you're doing one of these things, the bold color blocks, you are doing something related to leadership. So modeling the way, right? Doing something new and showing that it works, or doing something different, whatever it is. But you are doing it. You are modeling the way, whether that's inviting opinions in a culture that doesn't normally do that, or something else. Inspiring or change to a process, inspiring a shared vision. What could we accomplish together? Right? One of us can't do it by ourselves, but we could together do this. Challenging the process, being honest, having the courage to call out when something isn't working, and at least in whatever appropriate, constructive way, proposing the alternative. Okay. And if you can model that behavior first, that process, like I've tried this, it worked better. So much the better for you, right? Enabling others to act in layoff environments or times of great change. This is a huge big deal. You're enabling, empowering, whatever it may be, either through knowledge or through one of the other behaviors here, encouraging the heart, telling somebody, as sometimes you and I have done, Faye, it's, you know, get over the imposter syndrome. And I mean, we've done that for other people, both of us. I know this. You know, it's like, no, you're good enough, you're strong enough, get going with it. It's fine. You know, even if you fail, so what? Everybody fails. You got to, you know, fall down 4 times, pick yourself up 5, you know, that kind of thing. So those kinds of things, modeling the way, inspiring a shared vision, challenging the process, enabling others to act, and encouraging the heart. And the last thing I want to say on it, and then I want to leave it with you, is I keep this over there on my bulletin board out of sight, because there are times I think, what can I do to make a difference here? I can't see everything, but I look at that and I think, can I do one of those 5 things? Yes, this is the one I can do. I don't have to do all of them. I can do one of them. That's enough. It helped.
What was the second one?
Inspire a shared vision is the second. So model the way, inspire shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart are the 5. That's how I think of it. And I think if you can do one of those things or more, then you're engaging in leadership behaviors. And who cares what your job title is? If you can do those things, you are doing something validly connected to leadership. What do you think?
Modeling the way sounds a lot like innovation to me. Just, are you an innovator? To me, that doesn't sound so much as, it doesn't fit in leadership of people that I feel, unless you're talking about soft skills. You can be an innovator and be not a leader at all. Inspire a shared vision that feels like ownership, ownership of your process, of your people, of your company. And that's where imposter syndrome is going to slow you down so much. If you don't believe that you can make a difference, you're never going to try. So own it, do it. Challenging the process. What did I tell you? Courage. Give me courage. Underline it. Yes, 100%. Enabling others to act. What did I say that the definition of a supervisor was? Someone who removes roadblocks. Yes. Encouraging the heart. That is to care. Be a person to the people around you. In other words, that's more than leadership. That's just being human. And bring that. It's okay to be human. It's okay to be human at work. I think these are good. They work.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think they're a good place to start because it's like if you're wondering how to take leadership and take ownership, if you go to that website, take a look at those 5 things, and you can say, you know what, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that. And I know I'm interpreting it one way. I like that Faye is interpreting it a different way. It doesn't matter. It's you got to think of it. If it enables you to go do something, awesome. That you now have a model in your mind that lets you take an action you couldn't take before. I think we did get a question. I'm a little not sure if we have enough time. Did you happen to see that one yourself, Faye?
What is your take on matrix management / leadership models? I have never had a good experience with this model.
So if you have an opinion you'd like to share there, I'll invite you to do that, and I'll go there.
Tammy, are you in a place where you can talk with us? It's okay if you're not. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, so would you like her to kind of clarify the question a little?
Yeah.
Tammy, are you comfortable coming up? If you are, give me a thumbs up or just unmute yourself. And if not, we will riff on what we can from what we see.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll just give you a moment to do that if you want. Give her just a sec.
Tell you what, it takes me forever to find the unmute button.
I know. She'll do that. And she may also be listening or meandering about.
Yeah.
When I've done more than one podcast.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
So
Just
let me rephrase this, and y'all can tell me if it's just crazy, and then we'll stop at that afterwards. So I'm going to take this as when I've been in matrixed organizations, I report, typically it's something like, because I'm in software space, I report to the project manager or the development manager, but I also have a reporting line to somebody in my discipline who is, maybe the BA manager or something like that. And the BA manager is going to be the person to write my review, typically, and but it could have been the dev manager. But one of them is going to write my review and kind of have the final say on that, and the other doesn't. It has just input. Okay, so yeah, it's where Tammy clarified but she can't come on voice. Oh, this is where the resources report to a different leader than you work for. So, okay. And Tammy, are you the one in the leadership position? Like you have a bunch of direct reports and they report to somebody else and you report to somebody else. So you are not aligned. Maybe that's what you're referring to, which I think is the inverse of what I was describing. It's just the other side of the coin of the same thing. I'm thinking as a team member, it's that, but if you're the manager of a project or something, then it could be that. So resources report to a leader different than you work for. So other people. Okay. So let me clarify. I'm going to make an assumption. We're going to just roll with it. it's like that. Like I'm a BA on a team, a bunch of developers. The developers report to one person, maybe the dev manager, maybe not, the development manager. I report to somebody else. We are not going to the same point of authority above us for things. And how does that work for us? Again, I want to come back to you, Faye, because I've had that in a different way, but maybe if you have an opinion or a thought here, I'd love to let you take that, and then we'll probably go to our closing.
You know, at the end of the day, someone wants something from you. At the end of the day, you have a set amount of things that you can do. If there's a conflict there, I think it would be that two someones want different things from you, and that can be tricky. That can be really tricky. If you've had trouble, I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. If you've had trouble in that space, it sounds like it could be that you didn't have enough to give. Someone wanted something, another person wanted another thing. They're both your leaders. Man cannot serve two masters. Like it can get difficult, but if you are really in the place where you have to make a decision about who you're going to serve, first I would try to negotiate, right? Negotiate wherever you can, like figure out what you can easily do, negotiate and see if you can get the rest of it in a different way or a way that's more manageable. If that doesn't work, make decisions. Perhaps you can do 50% of one thing and 20% of another. If that is your like that's all you can do, does it make more sense to take that 20% and give it to the 70% and just say no to the other? It might. Think about it. You might have to make that decision because at the end of the day, you should be giving 8 hours to your job. And the rest of those hours are for you to sleep and to live. Please do that because it's so important.
Yeah. Sustainability. Don't burn out on this. Don't feel like you have to do everything for everybody.
Right.
I think she clarified a little bit there. I'm going to just give that a moment because this is the thing I've been in. Leadership doesn't know what they do, but are responsible for the reviews. So there's that. I've literally been in that spot where I had a BA manager, but didn't write my review. My dev manager did. And frankly, they weren't qualified to know whether my work was good or not.
Guess what?
It's not a slight to them. It's just the truth. We can't all be
Yeah.
good at everything. I'm not qualified to know how great certain developers are. Okay. So, okay, Tammy's saying exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that in that case, if it's matrix, then you kind of have a dotted line to a BA manager, or there's a discipline lead or something. I have been that person, so I can speak to this directly. I didn't have authority, but I wrote a lot of BA reviews at a company where I was the dotted line manager, but they reported to dev managers. I reviewed all of their work. I reviewed a broad sample of their work. I know I'm going to sound like that person, but I invested heavily in this. I said to each BA, I'm going to pick 3 pieces of your work at random, but I want you to do the following. I want you to give me 3 more stories, features, something. Give me 3 examples of your work that is the best example you think you have of your work to date. I want completed work, completed user stories, completed something. Not that it's dev complete, but it's complete from you. Your requirements work is done. You would hand this in as an example of your finest work. Give me 3 of those. I will also pull 3 at random that I think are interesting to look at, and I will critique the hell out of them. And I will write up what I think about your review based on that and some other things I see, you know. But that's how that worked for me. And I gave that input to the dev manager as a write-up for inclusion in that person's review as their discipline review. Here is how they rate us. Here is how they are pro and con, skilled and not as a BA. Now that dev manager can certainly automatically go to the other people on that team and say, here's what skills, here's how well they're performing, collaborating, or it's their work on time, all that stuff. They can do that. But I'm qualified to judge whether their work meets good standards, meets good practices. Would I sign off? Yep, this is good. I like it. And it gave me good feedback to give them to say, here's what I'd like to see the next time I do this process with you. So I think you could inspire that if you want to do some leadership activities on that, right? You could offer that as a process change. You could check with the dev managers who are writing the reviews for those people, see if they would find that valuable. Hey, would it be helpful if I were to look over some of these things and give good critique of this? I'm betting they'll say yes. I'm betting they'll appreciate your offer of assistance. And if they don't, it tells you a lot about how they are as a manager, and maybe you can help that BA or whoever write their resume. maybe it's not what they need. Okay, I know people are starting to hang up, and I know that, I don't know about you, Faye, I am starting to get there. I'm running out of my good conversation energy.
I need to eat dinner.
And let us stop. I want to say, Faye, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate the conversation. I know everyone here did also. I'm seeing some thanks in the chat, and I appreciate that. Thank you all for being here and for offering your insights in the chat as we went along. And just thank you again. Please take a look at all the resources I put out there earlier. LinkedIn for both me and Faye is available easily through that. And of course, the other conversations I've been having with folks. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much. And Faye, thank you again. Would you like to say goodbye to everybody? Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.